Hi, my name's Joe Bielecki. I am the Vice President of the Czechoslovak Nationality Room Committee at Pitt, or University of Pittsburgh. I'm also President of Sokol USA, which is also called the Slovak Gymnastic Union Sokol. And I'm here to talk to you about some Slovak and Czech Easter customs. The Easter customs all start on Palm Sunday. And in Eastern Europe, in general, they use these willow branches with buds to celebrate Palm Sunday and Christ's arrival in Jerusalem, because they were too far north to have actual palm trees growing. As people became more prosperous, you see elaborate palm designs woven from dried palm branches, and also from straw, like the straw cross. And so those were used in the Christian services to commemorate Christ's arrival in Jerusalem, which prefigured the crucifixion on Good Friday. Here's a spring scene. This is what April, because generally there's a lunar calendar that follows, that kind of dictates when the Holy Week and Easter Sunday celebrations occur. And generally the celebrations are in April. Sometimes it can be as early as March or as late as the beginning of May. But generally, this is what the Czech and Slovak republics look like in the spring. The budding trees, the people are still wearing jackets because it's cool, but everything's green and coming to life. Now, what happens during this Holy Week that starts with Palm Sunday, you will have the Czechs celebrate Wednesday of Holy Week with an unusual custom. The Wednesday custom is called the mazanec, which is they make noises to try and scare away Judas, because on Holy Thursday, Judas betrayed Christ at the Last Supper, and they're trying to scare him away the day before so he doesn't come. And obviously they will fail, and Holy Thursday will occur. The Holy Thursday has a little tradition, and it's called the Zielony Czwartek, the Green Thursday. It's sort of a fasting day in the sense that people will eat only green herbal things. They'll have a green herbal soup that's often made with spinach and other leafy vegetables, and they'll have other vegetables, but they'll generally not have meat. It's sort of like an atonement or a penitential kind of day. Good Friday is a very serious day of fasting and abstinence from meat. All over Slovakia and the Czech lands, and they do something interesting on that day as well. They don't ring the bells in churches, and in fact, if you have a church service, there's often handbells to be shaken or rung at certain stages in the service. They replace them with these little wooden clappers because it's considered such a solemn day that the bells can't be rung. And they're anticipating the joy of Easter Sunday where the bells will be rung. They won't ring them on Holy Saturday either. Now, the big thing that happens over the Holy Week is Holy Saturday, you have the blessing of the Easter basket. The Easter basket, it's a many, many centuries old custom in the Slavic world in general, but especially in the Czech lands and in Slovakia. And it's a very fixed, stylized menu that goes into the Easter basket. You're not going to have certain kinds of meats. Each food has a symbolism to the Holy Week and the resurrection. For example, you have this large white root. It's a horseradish root. It's very bitter. And they take a grater and they grate the horseradish, and they will take beets and they will also grate the beets till they make this kind of seasoning. It looks like a sort of a relish, and it's very, very tart and bitter. And it's the mixed ground beets and the grated horseradish. This symbolizes the bitterness of Christ's suffering and bleeding on the cross and his death. And that's always an essential part of the Easter basket. Other things that go into the Easter basket are very rich, greasy, I shouldn't use the term greasy, but very rich, often oily meats like ham. And I'm sorry it's in the package, but for the purposes of the filming, we didn't cook it yet. Kielbasa, or kolbas, as they say in Slovak. And you'll have also lots of things with butter. Butter itself. There will also be salt. First, because salt is a flavoring, but secondly, the salt reminds you of the bitter suffering of the crucifixion. And this coffee can is here for a reason. We were filming this talk too early in the season to go and buy what's called a Pascha bread. A Pascha bread is a very rich yellow colored inside, heavy, savory bread. And they put often in it raisins and things to enrich the bread, because Easter Sunday is a very celebratory day. They're rejoicing. It's the culmination of their liturgical cycle with the resurrection. And so they're celebrating, they're eating this special bread. The bread itself looks like it has a big crown on it, and many times, we're not advertising the Café du Monde, but the women will bake the bread in greased coffee cans, so that when the bread rises and bakes in the oven, it comes up and it goes a little bit over the top, and it looks like there's a crown. And they'll often put in dough on the top and brush it with eggs so it's very shiny. They'll take the pieces of the dough and make a cross, and so when it comes out of the oven, it looks like a crown with a cross on it. It's a very, very rich bread. The other thing that you will see, and the lamb is here for this reason, part of the menu will involve either a butter lamb, meaning they have molds, and they take butter and they put it in the molds when it's soft and then chill it, so it comes out, the butter looks like the Paschal lamb. It symbolizes the Christ who sacrificed his life and then was later resurrected. In the Czech areas, they will make a cake. And the Slovaks sometimes make cakes too, in molds shaped like lambs. The Czechs will make their cakes like gingerbread, or spice cake, or a heavy pound cake. And the richness symbolizes the joy of the resurrection and the culmination of the Easter holiday. And also, the other reason they use a lot of this butter, especially in the eastern part of Slovakia, is because in the far east of Slovakia, and especially as you approach the Rusin areas in the Ukraine, the people in those regions in former centuries ago practiced what's called black fasting. And a black fasting means they did away with all dairy products during the 40 days of Lent. And so you had appearing on the table butter-shaped lambs, butter. There was also another dish, but I don't have an exemplar to show you. This dish was called sirek, or sometimes, depending on the region of the country you're in, it's called hrutka. And it's a fake cheese. They take egg yolks and boil them in a double boiler. Then they make sort of like, put it into a cheesecloth. There's milk and egg yolks and all these other things. They put it in a cheesecloth and they leave it hang, and the liquid seeps out, and at the end of the process you have this coagulated, yellowish looking, it's not really cheese, it's a dairy item from the milk and the heated eggs. But they call it a cheese, even though it's not like what we traditionally accept or I recognize as cheese. It's fairly bland, but they didn't have eggs on the menu during the entire time of Lent. So this is sort of celebrating the return, at the termination of the Black Fasting and the return to the regular menu. The dairy comes back into the diet. You can drink milk, you can have eggs. They also will paint eggs. They'll hard boil them. In villages in the past, they used to use natural things, like if you wanted yellow eggs, you used onion skin when you boiled the eggs in the water. And other herbal things, other barks, other roots, other berries, vegetables, gave you different colors. Very elaborate eggs like these, or like these on the other table. These eggs in Slovak and Czech were called kraslice. In the Ukraine and more Orthodox religious areas, they call them pisanki. The pisanki term comes from writing, because the Eastern Slavic people would take a metal stylus and drip wax and make designs on the eggs. And so that term pisanki comes from the word pisać, to write. But in Slovak and Czech, they use the term kraslice. And kraslice means beautiful. They're beautiful eggs. So it's a little bit different term than we're familiar with here in the United States. But that's the technical term. Now the Czechs, there's always bread. The Slovaks make the Pascha bread in the coffee can. The Czechs do something different. They make a variant of hot cross buns. And they'll make these buns and they'll put like a cross in the dough on the top and bake it. And those are called nadivka. And they're yeasty kind of breads. And so you'll see that in the Czech table, and you won't see the Pascha. The Czechs also have something interesting, which is a little different from their neighbors, the Slovaks. The Slovaks will have many colored eggs. The Czechs prefer to make red, plain red eggs or red eggs with design, and they'll wear red clothing a lot on Easter, because for them the red symbolizes the victorious, the suffering Christ who rose victorious, and it's considered an auspicious color for Easter Sunday. Now, what happens on Holy Saturday in both countries, that the people take these baskets and they'll have an elaborate cover like this, handmade, covering the top, and the ingredients will be put in. These are called koláč, and it's common to both Slovak and Czech cultures. These are rich, tasty rolls. These have cream cheese in them, these have nuts, you can have poppy seed, any number of fillings. Sometimes they make long, very long elongated rolls with a spiral of the fillings inside. So they put all of these ingredients cold into the basket. They take it to the church on Holy Saturday, and the priest blesses the baskets, and then they eat this dinner cold, this meal cold for lunch on Easter Sunday. And that's the culmination of the blessing of the Easter basket. It's blessed, the ingredients are all highly symbolic. They're put in, they're taken to the village church, they're blessed by the clergyman, and then it's eaten cold. They go to church generally in the morning to celebrate the Easter service, the Easter resurrection, and then they go home and they have this delicious lunch cold from the basket. And there's something interesting though, and it happens in Slovakia. Slovakia has 3 large religions. About 60% of the population is Roman Catholic. Another 10% is Orthodox or Byzantine Catholic, and the remainder of the population, say roughly 30%, is Lutheran. And the Lutherans don't do the blessing of the baskets. That somehow left their tradition in Slovakia during the Protestant Reformation. Interestingly enough, all of these religions in Slovakia celebrate the same traditional Christmas Eve meal, which is a very many centuries, more than a millennia old stylized symbolic meal. But for whatever reason, the Slovak Lutherans dropped the blessing of the baskets for their Easter rituals. Now, there is one other thing that occurs, and this occurs Easter Monday, and it's kind of fun in the villages. And you see the perfume bottle, and it has an atomizer on it, and the young ladies run around the villages spritzing the young men with perfume, or they take buckets and throw buckets of water on them on Easter Monday. And the young boys, sadly, I don't have a braided willow switch. This is generally the boys chase the girls around with braided willow switches and, switch them on their behinds. And I use this whip as kind of an example because I don't have the switch. The willow switch is called a korbáč in Slovak, and in Czech it's called a pomláška. And that tradition is common to both countries as well. The Easter Monday. In some of the neighboring countries use the term Dingus Day to describe this, but it's a fun day. It's sort of like a celebration for kids. They'll spray perfume, or they'll play with these switches with each other, and that culminates the Easter week. But one of the most important moments is, of course, the meal. Taking the basket to church on Holy Saturday, getting the blessing, and then having this wonderful meal. There, of course, will be hard-boiled eggs to eat, candy like this. These are chocolate eggs that are covered with, a little bit of icing on them. And here's another example of an Easter basket cover. This is a very traditional folk-style pattern. This is an American one, and it says in English, "He is risen," and it has the pussy willow branches, which are symbolic for Easter, flowers. The color yellow is also associated with Easter, and then the green, because Easter is a spring holiday, and the earth is coming to life, and so it's all tied up. The symbolism of the holiday is all tied up on this particular cover, which is in English. And they would put it on top of this basket. If you didn't use this one, you would use this. There's any number of, there's no set pattern or style. Each person made, each household would make their own cover. Some just used like white linen, but the designs are reflective of the creativity of the makers of the cover. And so this is the Easter tradition in Slovakia and the Czech Republic.